I don't know where to start, Lars. It was just an extremely
Please don't
evening.
start with me. This has melted my brain. Like, serious analysis is going to be hard for me today. But no, that was just so much fun, and it it was. I love the games. I mean, we've had a few days of this now where we just sat constantly just discussing permutations on the WhatsApp. It's like, well, if he scores there, and if that one goes there, and I still maintain that the weirdest thing, or one of the weird things about this was that this outcome, I think, was probably the best thing for Spain. I think they are just marginally better off finishing second in this group, and also getting rid of Germany. So I think the way this kind of thing played out is good.
Barry, there was a moment, there was a pub over the road that was ahead of the TV and my iPad, and there was this big cheer, and I was like, well, hang on a sec, like, because I was watching the Japan-Spain game. I was like, well, Japan have scored again, have they? It doesn't look like it. And then suddenly looked down at Costa Rica and gone 2-1 up. And it was that was the moment where I just thought, this is absolutely sensational.
I mean, it was brilliant. Now, unlike you, I can only watch one game at a time, because if I tried to watch two, I end up watching neither. So I was watching Spain-Japan. We were getting updates from Clive Tilsley and Ali McCoist, was it? And was it Ali McCoy? God, I can't remember. It was so long ago, Max. 5 minutes ago. Yes, it was Ali. Yeah, there was a while where I didn't actually realise Spain could lose and still go through. And then I think it was Clive mentioned. I went, oh, fucking hell, yeah. So I totally lost the plot. And then, that got me more and more excited. I mean, it was a brilliant game, and Spain completely bossed the first half, like absolutely monstered Japan in the first half. Japan just couldn't get the ball off them. But they were only a goal up at half time, and then things changed very, very quickly, quite early in the second half. The Japan manager made another couple of inspired substitutions. Ritsu Doan scored one and set up another, which was controversial. I'm sure we'll get to that. And there was no evidence, in the latter stages of the game of any kind of collusion. Spain were trying to get an equaliser, despite the fact that they were going through. And I suppose that's commendable. They could have just down tools, both sets of players. But I think at the full-time whistle, Spain's players weren't sure whether they'd gone through or not. They looked a bit confused. So I think that's probably why they were pressing so hard for an equaliser. And it ended with them sort of taking pot shots from 25, 30 yards, which was, great for Japan. Because they were able to keep them at bay. But it was an absolutely sensational evening's football, and I can't believe FIFA are even considering tampering with the 14 group format, although there is talk now that plan might be shelved.
GSG says, Max, we're expecting to have to talk about overhanging balls this evening. And I know quite a lot of you have got quite exercised about ITV just constantly just talking about that one decision for Japan as opposed to the whole evening's sort of complete insanity. There was a big moment in the game, Jonathan. Do you agree with Barry? I didn't think that Spain were absolutely going for it late on. I thought they were trying to score, but in a kind of, we're just sort of trying. I'm not accusing them of anything because I don't think it was that serious. I don't know what you think. I think
that is kind of the way Spain play. And I think that's potentially going to be a problem for them as the tournament goes on. They don't have, well, ironically, their plan B scored a goal and then was substituted when they were 2-1 down, because the plan B is usually Morata, and he was taken off, obviously. So he's that focal point. Everyone else is like sort of tiki-taka wizard, pulling out nice triangles, and that's pretty much what they were doing for most of the second half. I don't think they looked like they knew what was going on in the other game. And to be honest, even people watching the game didn't really know.
Archie, there was a moment early enough, probably in the first half, I messaged you saying, how the hell did Costa Rica beat Japan? And then suddenly Costa Rica got really quite good in the Germany game after that.
Whether it was Costa Rica becoming good or Germany just took their foot off the gas so much after the first 10 minutes, as if they were the favourites in a cup tie who had, after 10 minutes, worked out their opponents and said, you know what, we've got this. And complacency, arrogance, whatever you want to call it, repeating itself from the Japan game. It's a terrible situation for Germany. And there are going to be big questions asked now of whether Hansi Flick stays on as coach, even though he's got his contract up until the next major tournament, which is the Euros in Germany. So there is an extra pressure on that. On the team director as well, Oliver Bierhoff. I don't understand. To go back to your original point, Costa Rica looked so harmless for so much of that half, and even when they did break forward, it didn't look like they had the necessary players forward to reach the goal. But there was that moment when Antonio Rudiger and David Raum combined for another defensive lapse, which has been the story of Germany at major tournaments since Euro 2016, including the semi-final that they played against France. It's now in each of their last 11 games at major tournaments that not only have they conceded, but they've gone behind as well. And for me, it speaks to a lack of balance in this team that Hansi Flick has also not been able to address.
Yeah, really, you mentioned the bad defending, Archie. I mean, they were doing some strange things at the back. I mean, some of these are players who played for pretty big football clubs and are normally not quite so goofy. I mean, is there anything about the Germany setup that makes them do these strange things? Because it's not the only game we've seen this. I know they're not always the most reliable of folk, even domestically, but man, it's so much strangeness going on.
It is about having the necessary puzzle pieces in the right places. If we look at the fact that Benedikt Hövedes, who is and was not a left back, played every single minute of Germany's victorious 2014 World Cup campaign, for example. And I think that it's not just about the defense. I think you do defend as a team, and all the things need to be working for you correctly. And I take it back to the balance there of individual lapses from the likes of Niklas Zula consistently in this tournament. Antonio Rudiger had his first as well. David Raum, I didn't think looked too good defensively apart from in the Spain game. Yeah, there is something wrong with, I think, the way that Hansi Flick is trying to jam in too many of the big names of this side. I think that ahead of this game, it would have been a justified call to leave out Ilkay Gundogan and Thomas Müller, or one of Goretzka, Gundogan and Kimmich, just to give this team what it needed, to allow Jamal Musiala to play at number 10 and to put Niklas Füllkrug up front. And then you don't have to worry so much about things defensively. But
why everyone's in the wrong position, which is something that you worry about quite a lot watching the team.
If everybody is playing slightly out of position, then I think that's going to continually unnerve you. And I think that has also played a big factor here. Also, the quality of the best German defenders is not there right now as well. It is a problem area, but you address that in terms of the system, as opposed to what's happened here, which is you concentrate so much on the strength that the gaps between the strengths and the weaknesses are so big, you lose the necessary balance that you need to be able to get results and indeed encouraging performances, because Germany looking vulnerable on the counter is something that we said in the preview for this tournament about 3 years ago, or at least it feels 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I think it's the third tournament in the row we've said that before the tournament, and it's the third tournament in the row it's turned out to be true.
It's a bit of a shame, isn't it, that Musiala's not going to be in this tournament anymore, because he did keep doing what he seems to do a lot of, at least in this World Cup, which is dribble around every member of the opposition and then boot it over the bar. But it was really exciting to see. And I know we're jumping between both games, but that sort of seems right given what we saw. Jonathan, how good is Spain? I find it hard. Like, you make such instant judgments on the first game, and then you have to rethink after each one. And just watching that, they just didn't, whether they didn't want to win, that's beside the point. But like, Unai Simon doesn't seem great in goal, does it? I mean, it's sort of that first one he probably should have saved. And I just can't tell. Like, Gabi and Pedri, I know are brilliant, but in the last couple of games haven't really been there.
Yeah, it's the beauty of this World Cup. I mean, I have to say it's delivering for me, like in terms of the quality on the pitch. That first half, they just completely dominated them. And I was thinking, they're the favourites, them and France maybe. And then about 25 minutes later, they're about to go out. It's like, what is going on? There was still quite a lot of time to get back into that game, and you sort of feel like a team, maybe like a France or even, dare I say it, in England, would have the tools to maybe get back into that game with the quality that they have maybe from the bench and sort of the game changers they have. Spain, a lot of the players, like you've just said there, Max, are really young. Gavi and Pedri there, it was 18 and 20, I think. You've got sort of Abde, who came in for Jordi Alba, and Ansu Fati came on. A lot of these players don't really have that sort of tournament experience of a World Cup, and you just wonder, like, when it's going their way, it's lovely, it's amazing, it's fantastic to watch, and they rip teams apart. But you just wonder when games are going to start getting, even the Germany game, I felt, the draw, there was sort of parts of the game where they dominated and parts of the game where they kind of fell out of it. And I think that might potentially end up costing them as the tournament goes on.
I mean, there were so many moments in this game, Barry, that I'm sort of loath to spend a lot of time on, did that ball cross the line or not? But Ale says a lot of people on Twitter don't understand parallax, and which is not a word I probably have to Google that right now. And also the entire ball being past the plane of the line. This includes people in the TV studio, which is pretty lame. I'm not saying it was defo over the line, but the camera is at completely the wrong angle. It is a key moment in that game, and the wait for the Japanese fans was like utterly agonizing, wasn't it?
For anyone who may have seen this is Mitoma's pullback for the second goal. And the ball looked to have crossed the line. And if you look at a still, the bottom of the ball, the bit that's touching the grass, has clearly crossed the line. But the ball is a sphere. So the right-hand side of the ball has not necessarily completely crossed the line. And I would say, looking at that picture, I actually drew a little line down the screen of my phone and conclusively proved to myself that the entire ball had not crossed the entire line. As Graham Souness and Gary Neville pointed out at tedious length after the game, with Souness crying conspiracy, FIFA conspiracy, we haven't seen the official definitive shot that proves the entire ball. But it's like that Manchester City Liverpool game. I'm going to say it's going to be millimeters, like 10, 15 millimeters of ball has not crossed the line. But regardless of whether it did or not, the goal was eventually given, having been initially disallowed, and that's that. I do think it's a bit of a shame, and I get why it's a contentious talking point, but it was such a big night for Japan, such an amazing evening's football. And the ITV punditry team devoted almost the entirety of their post-match conversation to this, had the ball crossed the line or not, chat.
It wasn't even just post-match as well, was it? The Germany game was ongoing at the final whistle, and sort of Gary Neville went into this spiel about the communicating decisions, and FIFA need to work on communicating decisions. And the Germany-Costa Rica game was still in stoppage time. It was like, it was a strange reaction to such an amazing night of football.
What I think they should have spoken more about, and of course, ironically, what we haven't really gotten to yet, so we're guilty as well, is what an amazing achievement it is for Japan. Because this is a team I remember seeing in previous tournaments, and I've often thought that this is so close to being a good team. Like, there's so much good going on with the Japanese national team. They've got a lot of players who work really hard, of course, but also have a very increasingly high level of skill and go forward with good endeavor and move the ball well. But they've always kind of lacked a little bit of cutting edge and maybe a little bit in front of each box, basically. And seeing them beat both Spain and Germany to progress is just amazing. It's fantastic. And Archie will be the person on the panel who knows this team the most, because half of them play in the Bundesliga, right?
This was going to be my point. I think the most galling thing for Germany is that the players who've scored all of Japan's goals so far all play in Germany. We're talking Ritsu Doan, who has done okay so far, been part of a very good Freiburg team who are second in the Bundesliga so far this season. We're then talking about Takuma Asano, who has barely played for Bochum, who are and not played since September, who are in a relegation battle. And then Ao Tanaka, who plays in the second division at Fortuna Düsseldorf, is the one who scores the winning goal tonight. So yeah, I'm sure they're going to have an interesting time when they do return to club duty when that comes back around. But yeah, as you say, Lars, they've got a good spine of players even who play in Germany. And to be honest, the most notable one I would have said coming into the tournament Daichi Kamada hasn't even really necessarily ignited yet. Intrigued to see where they go from here.
Joe says, are Japan still too nice, or is tidying the dressing room intrinsically linked to being good at football now? That was after, was it Roy Keane was saying that, they shouldn't be tidying up. That's too nice. I thought with Rob saying, I've been switching between these games. I've managed to miss Spain's goal, Costa Rica's goal, both Japanese goals so far. I don't know if he got any of the goals by the end of it. James says, does Graham Souness's choice of overshirt mean I need to change my wardrobe? I did quite like his sort of khaki look tonight. And Matty says, I guess the Bundesliga can start up again now. Archie suddenly has 3 weeks free in his diary.
Because they're missing all these Japanese players, so they can't be starting over again.
Absolutely right.
There are probably a few things to unpack, just from a German point of view still. The fact that Thomas Müller has seemingly announced that this will be his last game for Germany, which is, I think, to be honest, when he was retired by Joachim Löw a few years ago, that was probably actually the right time for him to go out in hindsight, because I think him coming back into the team seemed like more of an ego boost rather than him being able to actually fit into the way that this new Germany needed to play. But that said, at his best, he was unique and will still be remembered as one of Germany's finest national team players at his peak. When it comes to the post-mortem, the fact that I could go back over the last 3 major tournaments, Max, that they've played, and you find a similarity in the way that Germany have played in each of their group stage games. A bad first game, followed by something of a revival in the second game, and then the third game, bad once again. They just happened to be very lucky against Hungary last time that Leon Goretzka actually dug them out. And I come back to the point I made to you after the Japan game. Has this been enough of a departure from what they did under Joachim Löw? I don't see a coach in Hansi Flick who knew what his best side was at any point really of this tournament. You look at the team that he continued to select, it was his thinking that it was difficult to really string any logic through it. It's said that he has this really close relationship to the players. You wonder, did that go too far with some of the more high profile players who he seemed so keen to always put in the side? And as we've said, the defensive problems on the counter, never really creating a fantastic quality of chance. Mentioned the Jamal Musiala trend. But I think that also there's a certain point where if you're dribbling past everybody and then you continue to shoot, it tells you as well how much 19-year-old Jamal Musiala trusts his teammates in those positions. Because he's like, you know what? Even me on a bad day, I think I'm better than you.
Croatia, Japan on Monday, Morocco, Spain on Tuesday. I didn't have those, Barry, down as the last 16 games that would happen. We don't need to preview them now because we've chatted for quite a while, and we've still got to do Belgium going out and Morocco getting through. Yes,
I
Lars?
would just briefly urge people to go on the internet and find the photo that Kai Havertz had to post for because he was awarded a man of the match. He is not happy.
No,
I've just posted this in the group. It is so glorious. I just wish I could have been a fly on the wall to the conversation between the FIFA delegate being like, yes, you do still need to have this photo taken before Havertz then steps in front of the camera because
oh man. that is a priceless photo.
Memeable.
Oh wow, that's extraordinary.